be addressing the second affirmative side. So as Andrew stated earlier, our three significance claims were that access to guns creates an increase in violence in the United States. The United States has a proportionally high number of gun violence in comparison to other countries. And many guns used in crime were originally sold legally and were given away or sold privately. So to address the first significance claim, which was firearms account for the majority of homicides, from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, the statistics from 2014 states that there was a total of 15,809 homicides that year, and 10,945 are homicides due to firearms. And also, according to the National Crime Victimization Survey, there was 467,321 people which were victims of crime committed with firearms, and in the same year there was data collected to show that 68% of them were murders. So, as the negative stated earlier, as of 1996, there are more guns in the country, but there are less deaths. But this could also be due to guns being more regulated and there were more strict processes of who is able to access guns. Because in 1994, this was the time that background checks on guns were implemented. So since there was such a significant reduction in deaths and gun violence with background checks just on firearms, we can assume that there will be a large reduction with background checks on ammunition as well, which is implemented through Proposition 63. And because guns are only as good with ammunition, so if there's no ammunition to go in the gun can't do any harm. And our second claim was that the United States has a proportionally high amount of gun violence in comparison to other countries. As Andrew brought up earlier, England and Wales has no guns at all allowed in the country, so they only have one person for every 1 million people in the country die every year due to guns. And according to USA Today, it also states that in a population of 56 million, that adds up to 50 or 60 guns killings annually. But in the USA, by contrast, there's 160 times as many gun homicides in this country, but the population is only 6 times bigger than the population of England. And the negative stated that the US has an overall higher crime rate than other countries, but as of 2002, there are 10 countries that have higher assault rates than the United States, and also according to the Business Insider, the worst countries for kidnapping is Mexico and India, and these are just a few examples of crimes that are worse in other countries. So this shows that it seems that the United States only has worse crime rates than not necessarily in all areas of crime. So the third claim was that many guns used in crime were originally sold legally and were given away privately. And one study of adults living in Chicago determined that criminals obtain most of their guns through social networks and personal connections, not through legal sources. And also a phone survey of a gun dealer stated that half of gun dealers are willing to make sales under questionable legality, but now under the California law, it requires any prospective purchases of a firearm to submit an application through a documented dealer. It can't just be given as a gift or a sale. So many people have to actually document where they're getting their guns from. And also the gun control laws that the United States have in place are not sufficient. Therefore, there are high gun violence rates in this country. And this year alone, there has been over 330 mass shootings. And this has been happening for a few years now. And an example of this is the Aurora, Colorado shooter that shot up the movie theater, and he used an AR-15 rifle. And the AR-15 rifle is a large capacity magazine gun. So if this law had been implemented many years ago, then it would not have been legal for him to get the gun, and he would not have gained it from anywhere else because he bought his gun from Bass Pro Shop. And he also acquired over 6,000 rounds of ammunition. And if this bill was passed earlier, there was another bill passed that Prop 63 affiliates with, which requires the California Department of Justice to notify the law enforcement officials if someone purchases more than 3,000 rounds of ammunition a year, or within a 5-day period. So if this had been passed earlier, then he would have been suspicious, and they most likely would have caught him before he actually committed the crime. And in this particular scenario, he killed 12 people and 70 other people were injured. And if Prop 63 is implemented, it will overcome the barrier of a lack of sufficient laws in place to limit gun violence. And the proposition places higher background checks on people, especially with criminal records. And there's already precautions being taken in other states. And one study that I found prohibits individuals with domestic violence restraining orders. They eliminate them from being able to have guns being able to gain access to guns. So if all people with criminal records are limited access, then they will not be able to commit as many crimes. And they're stating that, or the negative had stated that a lot of, like, any handgun or any gun can be an issue in the country, but, and this may be true, but all of the guns that, all guns are being, not being allowed with over 10 rounds of ammunition in the magazine. So all background checks will be on ammunition sales, and the gun cannot work without